the Zoom meeting right now. Are you guys okay with that? Do we have to vote on that, or should we just do it? We'll just do it.
Well, you vote on approving the agenda as amended.
Yeah, I'll move to approve the agenda as amended.
So,
All in favor? Aye. Okay, so let's move on to security.
okay, Becky, we're going to turn it over to you. Let me make sure that you can allow you to share your screen.
This is a really big packet. I know, but I'm so excited.
And if you
See if you can do that now.
Yeah,
I
just keep your phone.
did say you had some slides, right?
Oh, yes, pull out the.
Oh, you're on mute.
It's a lot of proposals.
Okay, let's see
Or we'll
here.
take
I'm going to go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm not used to using Zoom, so
There you go. We got it.
Okay, so you can see the slide. I'll go ahead and pop this into slideshow mode here.
You're okay.
Yep.
Okay, so can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So just a quick introduction. So my name's Becky Wilburn. I'm a business development manager with Securitas. And Rick and I, we've had a couple of conversations regarding the potential need for security there at the Decatur Public Library. And I did provide a full proposal, providing some suggestions that potentially could help keep costs down, so you at least have some sort of a security presence during the day. So I think the slides I put together don't actually cover the pricing. I believe you guys have all seen that, but I can answer questions related to that. But I at least wanted to share some information, about our company, since Rick and I kind of already spoke about our proposal. So, with that being said, just kind of, moving on to talk a little bit about our footprint. So, while we are a global, national company, we have more of a local feel. So, we have a lot of district managers that run branches throughout the country, and about 400 brick and mortars that we have. And we have a local office there in Springfield. We service about 20 clients in the surrounding area, including Decatur. And we have one district manager there. His name is Ken Hollis. He's been with us about 7+ years, and he's got, about 20+ years in customer service. I actually worked with him previously at a previous job with the rent-to-own company. Great guy. He definitely puts his clients and his officers first. So it'd be great to work with you and your team if we were awarded business to work with Decatur Public Library. He manages and provides services for about 2,600 security hours there out of his branch, and he oversees about 100 or so security officers. So that just kind of gives you an idea of our footprint there in the local area and how we could support your security program. So next, just to kind of give you a quick overview, because I know we're being respectful of everyone's time and we already have this board meeting scheduled, I just wanted to give you a snapshot, of our company. So again, for an overview regarding our people and the people that we hire, we do all of our hiring, training, all the benefits are included. That's all done through our local office, and everything that we do related to the hiring of security officers is all included in the pricing that I provided. And then all of those security officers, as mentioned, would report directly to Ken Hollis, who would be your single point of contact for any services that we provide. So then that kind of leads me to the account management piece. You don't have a lot of contacts, so, say, for example, all the stars align and we move into a security partnership, I would pass the baton to Ken, and then he would handle everything that's related to operations, getting the officers assigned, and then working with Rick and your team regarding site visits, officer training, officer and site development, post orders, making sure that we understand the expectations and that the officers have proper training to be able to provide those expected duties that you would have, which we would then have listed and documented in what we call post orders, and Ken would work with Rick to put those together. And then we would also establish some KPIs. So, obviously we're providing a service, and we want to make sure that we understand those expectations phone that the security officer will utilize. And it also then is loaded with software called Securitas Vision. And what this allows us to do is have them complete these electronic reports on the phone, so they don't have to do anything on paper. We don't have to worry about not being able to read the reports. It's all done electronically. And they also don't need a computer on site to be able to complete this, because they can do it on a single device through the smartphone that we would provide. And then through these reports, you'll be able to see those as they occur, and it provides full transparency about what the officer is doing, where they are, in regards to location in the library, whether they're completing a perimeter check, whether they're, completing checks in certain rooms, checking doors. And then if an incident was to occur, then they're completing a report for an incident as well, and then you are provided with copies of those reports. And then we retain all of these reports. We archive them digitally for a minimum of 5 years. And you would have access to all of these reports, all of these activities that are taking place with the security officer through the client portal, which is called My Securitas. And I'm going to cover that here a little bit more in detail. And then another thing that you can count on as you guys are working towards a budget, trying to financially determine whether or not you can add security there. Our pricing that's been provided is all inclusive, so there are no hidden fees. So everything that I've provided already, we're not going to be coming back to you and saying, well, we need to supplement the charge for this, or we need to add this. Everything has been included, starting from the hiring process, uniforms, account management, the follow-up, the phone, the reporting, anything that you can think of, all of that is included in our pricing. And then lastly, the one thing that you can definitely count on with Securitas is our ability to be flexible. We can evolve and change based on your needs there at the library. So right now, you might provide 2 examples about coverage there at the library, but we understand that needs change. And that's another great thing about our contract. If you enter into a contract and you actually sign a Securitas contract, we have no expected terms. So we have a 30-day cancellation, termination clause. So you have the ability, to make those changes as needed, depending upon what's happening there at the library. So any questions so far on what I've covered? No?
No.
Okay, so I'm just going to move on and kind of cover My Securitas. I think, clients are always, very concerned about wanting to understand what's taking place, that you're getting your money's worth, the officer's doing what they're supposed to be doing. So you're going to have access through what's called My Securitas, which is a client portal that's going to allow you to see future schedules of the officers, the actual officers that are assigned to your site. This is where you'll have access to see the post orders that we put together based on the duties and expectations there at the library. This is
they have sensitivity training? Because we have, you know, obviously people that you want to have, and do they have de-escalation training as well?
Yes, great question. So yes, we have actual verbal de-escalation modules that they can take, and then sensitivity training. There's training that they have to go through just to become a security officer regarding that, but we do have specialized courses for that as well. So I can make a note of that. So again, if that would be something that we need to make sure that they go through, we can actually provide specialized courses for them to take to ensure that they have a clear understanding.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Any other questions? Nope. Okay, then I'm just going to cover one last slide. And I know I'm covering a lot of material in a very short period of time, and I'm definitely open, you know, to another meeting, but I wanted to make sure that we had a chance to kind of review just the basics of our company. So, you know, you think about, you have many choices when it comes to, you know, picking vendors, and that includes security vendors as well. So I just kind of wanted to leave you, you know, with this slide that talks about, you know, why is Securitas different? And one of the things that we've done over the last couple of years, we've made a huge investment, you know, kind of bringing that internal in regards to our employees and our clients. And we call one of the items regarding our employees is called the Securitas Commitment. And we've been working on improving, you know, personal health, financial, and professional wellness for our security officers by offering them free programs that are basically what we call enhanced benefits. And this is just helping them with some of these things that maybe they've had difficulty managing over time. We've also established an employee relief fund. I think, you know, you all probably saw the changes that took place with the pandemic. A lot of people were out of work, and our upper level management pulled together and utilized vacation time and kind of put forth and then was able to distribute that to many of our security officers that were out of work due to cancellation of accounts, you know, reduced hours because of the pandemic, and we then spread that out through vacation donations to our security officers that were out of work. And then we're partnering with many different companies and organizations. One example is Securitas and the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. We've actually built a partnership here back in 2021, working with them on the National Missing Children's Day. And then United for Impact. Across the country, our regions and our areas, we work together to give back to the community by doing donations, with charity events, and we spread the word and we get that out over Christmas time. We did a lot of donations to the food banks. Another example would be clothing, coats, you know, for the homeless. We did a lot of that throughout the holiday season. And then diversity, equity, and inclusion is another topic that's top of mind for our company. And we've now built what we call business resource groups. And these are networks of employees that have kind of built and formed to help share you know, emotional and career support in regards to these different diverse groups. And then the Securitas Foundation, which also goes along with Uniting for Impact. We worked together to provide about $500,000 in contributions initially in 2020, and then we provided and distributed funds to about 36 charities over the last 12 months. So that just kind of tells you a little bit about our company internally and what we're doing to support our employees, our clients, and our communities. So that's really all I put together for today, just so you guys have an idea, you know, of what Securitas is about and how we can help support security there at the library. So what kind of questions do you all have at this time?
That's pretty comprehensive. Pretty good.
It was pretty comprehensive, and they've also looked at the packet that you sent me a couple weeks ago, Becky.
Okay, perfect.
So we appreciate your time, appreciate you coming, and I'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Okay, no other questions then at all? I'm sorry, I'm still sharing my screen and I'm trying to exit out of here. I'm having some trouble here.
No, that's okay. We don't have anybody else attending electronically, so we're just gonna say goodbye to you now and log you out.
Okay, well, perfect. Yeah, feel free to reach out, and thanks for your time today.
All right,
Thank
appreciate it,
you.
Becky.
Okay. Mhm.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, do we have any written communications from the public? And there's nobody here to talk to, so that's perfect. So, old business, looks like the grass is doing pretty well.
Much
It's been a
better.
perfect spring for grass.
Much better. They planted and they put down a lot of fertilizer, but we still have some patchiness. We decided, because we had to decide early April or late March, whether to have our summer reading kickoff on the lawn or across at Central Park. We decided Central Park because it was patchy enough that if we got a rain beforehand, we'd be kicking holes in that lawn. So hopefully next year we'll be able to have it
Right
out.
there, which would be awesome. Is there any other, well, capital needs, we talked about that later, so.
Yeah.
So, is there any other? Old business?
No, I mean, we're looking at security cameras, but we've already bought them, we're just waiting to get the cable run.
Okay. So let's talk about the check register. There were a lot of computer software charges in this one, I noticed. And then at the end, it said, membership fees, those credit, Regions credit card, it seems to always say that, but is it membership
The
fees
issue
or not?
is that it doesn't print that. It doesn't print the entire, so some invoices have things that are on different budget lines.
Okay.
So especially a credit card, it may have some membership fees and conference registration and office supplies.
I'm
And
actually-
it doesn't, we can't get it to print correctly on that.
Okay.
Now,
Well, I
It's
know,
bud-
you
It gets
said that.
budgeted, right,
Yeah.
but, yeah, and what we can do on things like regions, what I can do is I can just bring you the invoice also so that you can see it. So we have to do that.
And then, it seems like we're getting a lot of software this month.
So the 12,500 to Bridge All Libraries Limited, that is through Baker and Taylor, and that is essentially our weeding software.
Okay.
That's Collection HQ, and there will be money coming off of that. So
Baker Taylor credit program.
yes, we're going to be getting credit for that because we will be returning some, when we remove some books, we will be returning some to them because they're getting into the used book business. And they will credit our account for this software every time we do.
Okay.
Now,
And then,
we don't know what that's going to amount to over the course of the year because it's new.
because we also had like,
Yeah,
Zuby.
Yeah, that's our summer reading program, registration software.
and is that just a one-time thing, or?
It's every year.
3
It's
years?
every year, yeah. And
Is this a
it's
three,
in
year,
the,
3 of 3, okay.
and the Reboot Restore is in there from TechSoup Global. So that is, so when everything updated to Windows 11, the public access computers downstairs, we've got software on them called Deepfreeze that what it does is to protect patrons' privacy. When they log out, everything's wiped. Problem is, it's not playing with Microsoft 11. So Matt has been working with them for months, and finally we just decided it's time to look at new software. And he's tested this one, it works well. I think it's all, is it installed now? Yes, and it's working beautifully so far.
And then the Verizon bill, did we, get rid of some of the
Yeah, so
hotspots?
what happens on that, and the reason it's going up and down, is sometimes we're suspending some of the hotspots, and then when somebody wants them, we're reinstating them. So we are going to see some up and down on that for a while. But I think we're at pretty much the right amount right now. I think we've found the sweet spot. So hopefully that will stay fairly steady. And would you guys like me to bring the credit card invoice or statement each month?
We're okay.
Because I don't know off the top of my head what all is on regions this year.
And then, I'm glad to see people are doing conferences and travel again.
paycheck months. So that's in really good shape. Professional services, some years it's crazy, some years it's not. We're pretty good right now. Cash, we haven't got our second bill for Indiana Jones yet, so that's going to be, going to be large. But so our cash on hand for the operating fund is $842 roughly $1,000. Capital fund, that's what we'd be paying for shelving and furniture.
Yeah, we can put one in a capital fund.
533,000. Cantoni, for about $3,000, we can free this money up for books.
Let's do it.
I could talk to the attorney, and he said it's probably half that if they don't, if it's not contested. Okay, so.
I say let's just do it. I mean,
Okay,
it's just sitting there.
I'll let it know to proceed. Meyer fund is not going to be falling like it used to because we're not paying Leanne out of it anymore. Memorials and donations goes up and down, but we are at a total cash position of $1.4 million. So that's it for the actuals.
Awesome. And then the projection.
Yeah, so UPRT is still coming in at a much higher rate than expected.
How much have we got so far?
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
I didn't see it.
That's what
It's not, I don't have it specifically on here. It's part of the all other revenue, but and I don't have it
That's
in
625.
my memory. Yeah, it's most of that 625.
Okay.
So
Bananas.
it's over half that 625 at least. So much higher than we expected.
Well, it's because I think Chris.
But it could adjust itself.
Stop seating.
So on the revenue side, we're looking at, if that pans out, almost $1 million more than we had budgeted for. And on the expense side, right now we're on a pace to come in about 24,000 over on personnel costs. Again, completely due to medical costs being
super high.
out of hand. But everything else we're doing really well on. So 121,000 on operating, under budget on operating funds. So that brings the total. At the end of the day, we're going to be, our expenses are going to be 97,000 less than expected. 865,000 more revenue than expected. So we're looking at a $952,000. So, next year, furniture.
Well, that's what I want to talk about,
Yeah.
is that I feel like we should definitely budget some of that towards furniture. I
There's-
mean, I would love this place to just look a little more shabby.
And there are more.
And I just think it would make it a happier place.
Yes.
Right now, it's not like, these chairs are depressing, but I would say this room is like the least of our
Yeah.
Yes.
worries. I think how
Oh,
public
yeah.
spaces
I would
are-
like to see this, just out of respect for the board and.
Oh, I
the
agree,
other-
but I feel like the public spaces should come first.
But this is, public does use this space.
I know, but
Not as
not as
much. I agree.
much. I would say that we definitely want this room too. Well, I mean, the table's fine. Just the chairs. And they're actually not that uncomfortable. They're just depressing.
We're very broken.
Yes, they are. There are a few that you get into. But so how do we go about,
The next thing is securities.
yeah. Yes, go back to that.
So,
Oh, let's do security.
so the bottom line pricing for 40 hours for these guys is
Are we
61,000.
doing a 40, not 45?
Well, and I
48.
mean, were we even doing 40? That was my
Yeah.
question.
We could
Like,
go, we
do
could
we-
cut it, they could cut it down as low as 20, they said, 20 hours. That would be their minimum. So,
Did we find out what the hours that, Matt was going to list?
yeah,
Is it-
our worst hours are, it's not even close, 11 to noon and 4 to 5. Those are by far our biggest hours of incidence. Now, there's a lot lots of factors that go into this. One of them is, does every incident get into the database? Of course not. You know, people don't always take the time to stop and put it in there. But stuff that gets recorded, we're looking at our peak times for problems are those hours. We settled down a little bit, except we had the, you know, we had the guy, I think I told you guys about this last month, that threatened me, and then we had a guy that, I mean, he got his library card on Friday, and has had 3 incidents of sexual harassment since of our patrons, of our staff, and apparently patrons too, so he's been asked to not come back.
Nice.
Didn't waste any time. So, I see, okay, I got you guys a private one because you recommended that, which I think is a really good idea. But we've got a couple of options here. This is just one one private firm. Here's the things that I'd like to gain. I'd like to take, these guys can't detain anybody. And you hope they deter, but mainly they could take the job of monitoring behavior off the staff's back. You know, the other thing is,
They do have a different set, like, that's like the basic, they do have armed security. Well, not, I mean, not to that extent, but I mean, like, they do have people that are trained in
yeah,
apprehension.
I don't think they do. I don't think Securitas does. At least Becky told me they did. But there are firms that do. What was the one that?
And I mean, the cops would be here, so I mean, it's the same difference.
Yeah.
They'd be here pretty quick.
Yeah, so they can detain, but you hope they can deter, you know, and they're going to be a set of eyes, and they're not going to be sitting in one place. They're going to be moving around. It takes the responsibility off the staff's back. Also, my hope is, and this is anecdotal only, but I think that a lot of people have stopped coming to the library because they don't feel safe coming to the library. And I would like to get a sense of safety back for those folks who don't feel that. And I think, and I like their reporting because what you get is, so Matt was able to do it by time, and they do it by time, day of the week. Matt could add that in there too, but also type of incident, where in the building did it happen, so you know your hot spots, you know, okay, we want to be around here at this time of day, that thing. So there's a lot of good things. We're not the only tenant in this building, so everybody would benefit from it. And my feeling is if we do this, the city should kick in because it's their building.
They could check
It's
us
their building,
spots.
and
They're part of the building as well.
the other tenants would benefit now. And, you know, there's been vandalism in here, that's a cost to the city, so, you know, hopefully it could prevent some of the vandalism too. Now, my initial talks with Assistant City Manager, he is not as excited about this as he would be having sheriff's deputies in here and sharing that cost. And there's pros and cons to that too.
How much did we ever find out how much the cost of that was?
No.
And my apprehension to doing that is we would be the third wheel on a route that they already run, so it'd almost be like not having security here.
Yeah, and what could be, if we do it that way, and maybe there's another option. So Mike Pritchett is the assistant manager of Civic Center and the building manager here. He's out on medical leave, but he's the one who engages these guys. So when he comes back, I'm going to see, this is the assistant city manager's suggestion, I'm going to see if we can just have a free dry run. Have them come and do a few walkthroughs, and start talking to about what the cost would be. Because we got to know what that is before we commit to anything. And I know that he also is, he being Deputy City Manager Kinson, mentioned that there's some grant monies that Senator Turner has brought to the city about violence prevention that could possibly pay for it. So it's not a for sure thing, but I don't think he was too interested in sharing the cost with this.
I
So
would imagine.
I see great advantages to it not being a police officer in some ways, because the police officer ain't gonna answer to me. You know what I mean? I think he's gonna answer to his the sheriff or his sergeant or whoever he answers to. And that's not, I don't even necessarily mean that in a bad way, but they're gonna police the way they police. And I would like somebody who does this the way we want to, you know. And maybe that aligns, you know. Maybe we get police officers in here and they totally agree. And they're off duty, but they're not, you know, they're never off duty. They're always a peace officer. If you're a peace officer, you're a peace officer. So that they could have a sidearm. Is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? Does that intimidate people? We've had them in the past. You were here when they, that was before I was here. And those were not county sheriff's deputies. Those were city police officers.
I see good and bad with both of them.
I
I
do
mean,
too.
I'd still like to see the costs, like, I mean, I'd even like to see like less, like, you know, I saw the 40 and the 48 and I was like, well, I don't think we need 40 and 48, maybe we do, I don't know. But if, and like, time frame is like 5 to 6 hours.
Yeah, that's the part. If you want to cover both that, unless you convince somebody to do a split shift,
That's not.
if you want to cover those, and if you want to add that sense of security back for the public,
But I don't think they don't need to be at 9, like, I don't. Okay, there's
I-
cost of what.
I mean,
Maybe
40
except for that one.
40 hours is, and like you said, I mean, there's no way you're gonna get them to come in and work for, because they do 12 hours. That, I mean, Securitas is kind of like a 12-hour or 10-hour work group. I mean, pretty much what they do. But even still, you're telling them, okay, we need you to come here for 3 hours and then come back for 2 hours.
not going to happen.
After a gap of say 3 hours maybe. I mean, but my thing is, I mean, even with using the cops, I call them cops, what, deputies, city police, even with using the deputies, it's, what does that look like? Are they going to put us on a route? Because if I'm not mistaken, I thought they were already shared between two
Yes.
other locations.
Yes. Yep.
So,
That was the original pitch to me, yes.
Like, are they gonna add another like person,
Right.
and then they like do.
and would they be patrolling here during our hot, like, from what I hear, the need is to have someone here during that window, and not someone to come through, say, 30 minutes within that hot window, and then leave, come back, and sit for another 20, 30 minutes.
Well, I wonder what the hotspots are like at the Civic Center and the bus station too.
This bus station, I can tell you, it's and the sheriff himself is coming for that. It's right after school gets out. I've had a front row seat to it for 8 years. So,
Yeah, it's right outside the window.
yeah, everything you're saying makes sense, and I get it, and
But wasn't it like 100,000? I thought you said like it was like 100,000 that they do already? That between the two, they do something like 60? I mean, I thought you said a number at first.
well, I said a per hour number, and he said we might be able to get it down to 20-something per hour if all three of us, of course, you know, the bus station and the civic center and the library is splitting the cost. But again, are they going to be patrolling here when we want them to patrol here? It's been suggested by a few people that well, maybe unpredictable random presence from law officers is a better deterrent than predictable. But I don't think people set out to come, I'm going to go to the library and cause some trouble. I think it's just when they're here and they're hungry. It's right before lunch and right before dinner. So, they're hangry. Or maybe it's just our staff is hungry and they're writing more patron reports at that time.
I just think I need more
There's-
information.
That's if we, and I said that,
The other proposals as well.
yeah, you know, that if, you know,
This is intense. This is an intense packet.
it is, and there's a lot here.
And I was like, I don't know.
Thanks, Michelle.
I mean, there's a lot of things that about private security, and I hadn't even thought about it until Jacoby recommended it, that we recommended that we look into it, that I like better than having police officers, because, you know, we serve a lot of folks that are homeless, you know, that are here a long time, and they don't necessarily have a good relationship with the police.
Well, that's why I asked that question about sensitivity and
Right.
de-escalation.
But Mr. Kinseth believes that, I mean, well, that's an opportunity for the police to improve relations with the community.
Are they going to though? I mean, is
Uh,
that just him saying that and then
Right, lip
they're
service.
not gonna
Yeah,
actually do it?
My response to that was that simply, it's a worthy goal, but it's not, I'm not gonna spend money to help the police improve.
Well, the good thing about this is they're more client-based, like you were saying.
Right.
I mean, these people come in as an employee.
Well,
So-
I'm almost leaning, I mean, I'd like to know the numbers on the other one too, and just the specifics, but I'm leaning towards something like this only because they said 30 days, you could cancel it.
That's the other.
And I
that's
just
the-
feel like
and
you
then-
could try it out and
and
it's
we're already-
working really
We're
well.
already
like,
halfway,
just
we're already
keep going.
halfway through the year, so 61,000 is gonna be 30,000.
And,
You know.
like, I mean,
But to trying it out, keep in mind that what you're doing is you're firing somebody. I mean, because they don't have anybody hired for this job yet, so if we say it's not working out, that's somebody that, you know, it's easy
Well,
for us to say,
so
well,
here's what I'm guessing, I'm
I mean, it's
guessing
a company, they
that
would
if
just
it's,
repurpose them somewhere else.
that if it's not working out, then that person is probably not doing a good job. I don't necessarily
That could be-
think
yeah,
it was
could
the
be right.
company, so you're firing
Could be
somebody
right.
who's not accomplishing what we want
I
to
know
accomplish.
what the off-duty city police officers, from what I've heard, because again, I wasn't here, you know, they're not all created equal. I mean, some of them were great, and some of them were not as great, and some of them just sat behind the desk all day and looked at their BlackBerries, and some of them walked around.
Well, we want somebody walking around, period, end story.
Exactly.
Like, I don't, that's just a,
I agree with that.
has to happen. I mean, that's what I love about the city.
like, I don't remember them walking around.
Walking around and talking to staff
Yeah.
is the alternative to the walking around.
Yeah, and I think they were there just in case, rather than let's be proactive and see what's going on. And it may be that that was enough, just sitting back there with a gun on the bench was enough, you know?
I mean, I think it's interesting too to think about having, you know, like tests, you know, a few tests, runs of like, they add us to the route for a couple days or 3 days. Like, I think that would be interesting
John
to
said,
see.
we might be able to do that for free. So,
Yeah, I think that would be really interesting to see. I mean, not that you're gonna get a whole lot of info from a few days, but I think maybe, especially if there are many incidents at that point.
And the other thing is, I've never asked, I'm gonna call the chief of police, I haven't talked to this guy, never met him, the new one, but maybe and say, hey, could you guys just do a walk through the library once a month?
We used to have one who did daily do a walkthrough, and then he retired.
So, I don't know, it's just a thought.
Okay. Well, let's move on because she's go, and I want to talk about
Yeah,
furniture.
and I can get more specifics from what the police would cost by the June meeting.
Well, let's just quickly say, before we talk about the furniture, like the shift sweep is, what do we do about transferring money more into the fund?
So, yeah, so that's really more what I want to talk about with the financial aspect, because before we get into specifics about which I wanted you guys to take a look at what it was, but, so you know, one of the ideas is to piecemeal this overall remodeling project, okay? Well, this was $250,000 4 years ago. It's now $474,000. So it's doing it piecemeal, a little bit this year, a little bit next year, a little bit the year after, it is by far the most expensive way to do it. But, so that's just something to know. One, we only budgeted $250,000 for this year. We've got $533,000 in that fund, but it would take a budget amendment. I don't know how to do that, I just call Greg and say, how do I do it?
I'm totally for a budget amendment, but I don't know what you guys are for.
I would be too, but I
So-
just need to.
I just want to give you a full, so you know every possibility. So the other thing I didn't do, because we're piecemealing it, this is that I took that there's, there is the Live and Learn construction grant. Now, we can't get it for this year, but I didn't, I thought this was going to be $250,000, and I wanted it for a bigger project, but $500,000 is pretty big. Or we can work, apply for that grant for the furniture next year. The carpet is something that I talked to the city about doing, because the contract says it would be their responsibility, and they're very open to discussing this. I just figured if we're going to be replacing the shelving, it might not be a bad time. We have to decide whether we want to do it upstairs and downstairs,
Yes.
or just downstairs. But the
answer is
biggest,
yes.
the biggest question is, do we, I think we can, if we get rid of AV shelving,
Yes.
magazine shelving,
Correct.
we're looking at, another a savings of somewhere around $70,000.
I think we should do that.
But we'll still need a budget amendment. So,
So-
my question is, do I proceed with that? I mean, the full board would have to approve it,
Yeah,
but
Yes.
the city manager, or the city council, is they gonna be mad or not?
I don't think so, because so here's the capital fund
I know, but
is
in our
set
operating
aside,
fund-
and we have to spend it.
I know, and our operating fund is like bananas high, it's so
Right.
high, like, we just,
So our attorney this year said, you gotta start spending some of that money. You can't just sit there and stack
and
it up.
was there a budget for the furniture?
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
Not yet. So,
You're just
because once I
looking-
saw that, I said, I don't need to. So,
Yeah, I say we make an amendment. I want to get carpeting, shelving here, and then next year we're gonna work on getting the furniture, whether we do it through a grant or whether we do it through the surplus money. I don't know, it's up to you guys too, but that's mine.
And I don't have a commitment on the carpet, but they were very receptive to the discussion. I don't have a commitment from the city yet.
I like the orange carpet.
Come on, is it gonna be dated?
No. Anyway, there's other ones too.
Do you need me for a motion or anything?
No,
Motion to leave.
at budget for the furniture, we have to, it's an action item.
Do we need,
Well, for the amendment, if we're gonna recommend amendment to the full board, yes, motion and.
okay. You wanna do it since you, I don't
Okay,
wanna.
no, go for it. You're on the roll.
Well, this might be my last one, I don't know, my last finance meeting, depending on June. So I'll make a motion to amend the budget,
Second.
and send it to the board,
Second.
and then we have to do money, so, right? Roll call?
Yeah,
Yes.
Yes.
yes, all right. Very exciting. You can go if you want, and then you can talk about furniture.
So you can't do anything without me.
You can't take any action.
I know, we
Okay.
can't take any action, I just like the idea of stuff. I do like this stuff too.
Yeah, I like all of them, except I don't like orange, but you can pick it.
I'm not usually a orange person either, but I
I
love
know, but
it.
I feel like it would just
So
be
keep in
dated.
mind that any of this, don't look at the covering. So it can all be vinyl. So what we really want is easy to clean.
Yes.
And then any of it can be done in a vinyl or what's the other option?
So we're gonna get rid of carpeting, we're gonna put in vinyl flooring?
No, I'm talking about furniture, I'm sorry.
Oh, furniture, I was like,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
like carpeting, we need carpeting.
Yeah, the upholstery is like this, what is this, microfiber looks like. We're just gonna
Yeah.
go with the, I guess, faux leather or vinyl. Just soft,
And are you gonna
soft.
pick a variety of different seating for different parts of the
It's,
library?
again, this is the kind of expenditure that is ultimately a board decision. We could make our
Are you gonna get some
recommendation.
recommendations?
And
from
we've got some
architects?
from staff. This is from the architect.
Okay.
That was the,
I think these chairs are really super funky.
I like the round ones.
so this is just for shelving?
Yeah.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Just for shelving
These
downstairs.
look comfortable too.
But the back is kind of lovely.
Yeah. The round thing is super fun. Yeah, I tried some of
We
that.
should bring them on in.
They're sending us some samples.
That's good. When do they arrive?
They'll
wrap around you so you have something to help you get out.
That one's pretty
Fun.
kind of.
Yeah, so if we look at next year, we look at the
I
living
thought
room
these kind
agreement.
of things were kind of cool too.
Yeah.
So one of the things that Live and Learn Grant likes is accessibility, so things with, things with arms that you can, help elderly people get out of those and that kind of thing. They would look kindly upon that.
And a lot of the legs on these chairs come in metal or wood.
I would say the wood is going to show less over time than the metal will. So-
The other thing we have, guys, is so those sling back chairs that you see all around, we've got over $100,000 worth of those chairs. So if we looked at a public auction, that could defer some cost too. But
So here's the thing is how attached are patrons and staff to those? Because I'm okay with that as long as it's not something that is super loved at the library.
some staff are very attached to it, but we've got like 30 of them. So it's not like
So
I've
we
ever seen
could,
them all full.
we could save some in a special
Sure.
spot.
Sure.
In our office, a
Somehow.
visit.
Exactly.
Yeah, we've got approximately 30 of them. They go for about $4,000 a piece.
Make it designated area for like that 70s show. Just put
There you
it
go.
right there.
They're Eames chairs, and it's a famous designer, and
One of these is
furniture people just go nuts for them.
Yeah, this one.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And that one was terribly uncomfortable. Yeah, but that's like sitting at a computer. Yeah.
Yeah, and we've got, all those other chairs are Eames too, and they're
Yep.
collectible too. They're worth a few $100s a piece. So it's, a lot of those are falling apart. But what I was explained to me by a furniture vendor and at the last sale in Washington was that, you get one tear,
Oh, it's over.
it's over. Yeah, you get it in that leather, it's just, we don't.
Because it's not really leather, so it's gonna run, crack.
Yeah,
I think we should get rid of some of them.
yeah. So,
The money.
so it's something, and the Live and Learn grant's not a slam dunk, but, it's through the state, and, I can call Mark Schaefer, the guy who ministers it, and he can, give you tips. He wants people to get money. Yeah. So,
I think it would be cool if we got rid of those that are high visibility for this library because they've been around for so long and replace them with something reminiscent of them, more modern. Then we're not really changing the library, we're keeping it
yeah.
in
Yeah.
the family as a word.
And I think you get if you do it like with a silent auction or something, it brings attention to your project and what you're doing, and, you might even get more than $4,000 a piece out of it. So,
Well, on the new one, as long as we get something that, like you say, you have to kind of take into consideration the demographic of the library. There's a lot of elderly.
Yeah.
You have a lot of small children.
Yep.
So,
Can I make a suggestion that we bring one of them and put it in here for the board meetings, so we can discuss it like as a board, what we should do?
One of the Eames chairs, we can do that as well.
Don't you think, just so that everybody just is on the same page as to what we're talking about? I mean, I had to go out at the last meeting and go and actually specifically find out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that chair.
We can do that tomorrow.
But I think that would just be helpful for the conversation.
Yeah, I agree.
Anyway, do you want to make a motion to end the meeting?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
And there, I guess I have to second it.
Yeah, the Robert's Rules of Order is, you really, once you got a motion,